Meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Apologize for the late start. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 22nd Radnor Township School District regular business meeting. I'd like to report that the board met in executive session tonight, October 22nd, to discuss legal matters and personnel matters. We would normally have our report from students now, but unfortunately, both of them are off at a sporting event. Soccer?
Yes.
Track. Soccer? Soccer. So we wish them good luck tonight. And with that, we'll move right into our report from the superintendent. Mr. Batchelor?
Good evening. Good to see everyone. I know we have some recognitions tonight, so I'll go quickly just through my report. We've had some, great start to the school year, as we've talked about in September, and some recent meetings to really highlight both our partnerships within the community, but also some important issues that have been discussed. We recently, thanks to cooperation with our PTO and our high school Ask program, we had a community forum on vaping. And we had the support of our local Radnor Township Police. Chief Flanagan there was with the group as well. We had a really productive, I thought, conversation both with the high school administration and the parents involved about the seriousness of vaping and some of the things that we're putting in place both district-wide and especially at our high school, but also thinking about our middle schoolers, about making sure that we're educating our students about all the concerns with vaping. We've had a recent wellness feedback session. You can see some pictures there from our recent community feedback session on our wellness goal to look at the wellness of our students. We had a promoting safe driving, infomercial, I want to say, our information piece that came out with it, where we partner with the Radnor Police. So those pictures there. We have had senior nights. Believe it or not, we're coming to the end of fall sports. I cannot believe we're coming to the end of October. But we've had a lot of our senior nights for activities. We've had an open conversation at our middle school with Speak Up, which is always a great opportunity for our students and our parents to come together. And then a recent donation to our Ed Foundation, which we're always appreciative of donations and the support that we receive from our community. We did send out a survey. Just want to let everybody know we did send out a survey. It's a very simple survey. We want to start gathering feedback on our new schedules. We want to hear what has been positive, what has been negative, what hasn't worked well with the change of schedule, what is working well, and we wanted to hear people's feedback and suggestions as well. So it's a real quick survey with I think it just has 3 questions on it, as well as, what grade do your students in, or what grade are you in, and those pieces are in there as well. And then our upcoming events. You see that there's always a lot of things happening as we move into the month of November. We want to thank you again for our donations. We have 2 on the agenda tonight. We have the Radnor High School baseball boosters and the Franklin Mint Federal Credit Union. And as I stated before, we couldn't do it without the support of our community. And so I want to thank those recent donations this month. And that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Batchelor. And now we're going to get underway with our recognition for 2 high school seniors. Mrs. Bonneberger.
This is such a small selective crew. There's only 2 of them, so can I ask them to come up here now, or would you rather wait till the end? Hi. Okay. RHS seniors Helen Hu and Ryan Oliver selected to all national honor ensembles. Radnor High School students Helen Hu and Ryan Oliver were recently selected to the National Association for Music Education's 2019 All-National Honors Ensembles and will be joining 556 young musicians from 49 states and territories in a performance at the Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center in Orlando, Florida from November 7 to 10. Helen plays in the school's orchestra and the Radnor String Quartet and is also a member of the Philadelphia Sinfonia Orchestra. Ryan sings in the Meister Singers, the B-Sharps, and Pro Musica, and he's a founding member of Radnor's barbershop quartet Fortissimo. In addition to his vocal activities, he plays trumpet in the school concert band, jazz band, and orchestra, and he serves as drum major for the marching band. The all-national honor ensembles consist of a concert band, symphony orchestra, mixed choir, jazz ensemble, guitar ensemble, and modern band. Students were chosen through an audition process. The selected students will perform under the direction of 6 of the most prominent conductors in the United States. All conductors have received top honors in their field and will spend several days rehearsing with students before the concert. The National Association for Music Education, among the world's largest arts education organizations, is the only association that addresses all aspects of music education by advocating at the local, state, and national levels, providing resources for teachers, parents, and administrators, hosting professional development events, and offering a variety of opportunities for students and teachers. The superintendent, along with the school board and the entire Radnor community, congratulates Helen and Ryan, their parents, and their teachers on this outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mark. Great job, Helen. All righty, great. And with that, we're going to get right underway with our presentation on enrollment and class update. And we have Mr. Dukevich and Mr. Brooks. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sean Dukevich. I'm 3 weeks new to the Radnor family, but I'm thrilled to be here. And Mr. Brooks and I are here today to provide you with an update on enrollment and some implications for a close study of the enrollment piece. To begin, our learning intentions as part of our enrollment update, one is to look at our status of enrollment and trends. 2, to begin a discussion of a district priority project to develop a long-term facilities plan that reflects enrollment, program needs, and building requirements. I have a number of slides coming up that reflect enrollment over the last 11 years, and as you can see back to 2009-10, all the way through the current year. The top graph reflects each elementary school and the number of students at each school from each year from, again, 2009 and 10, all the way to the current year. The graph immediately below the bar graph reflects the changes from 09-10 or 09-10 to 19-20. Different picture, really. You can see how the enrollment changes from each year as a plus or minus student population from year to year by school. Obviously, the green reflects a positive increase, and the red reflects a reduction in student population at that time at that school.
Would you like questions throughout, or would you rather we wait until the end?
Oh, sure. We'll take questions throughout.
I'm just questioning this. I see it says elementary enrollment and capacity. Does it have capacity on here, or is that on another slide?
At this point, this is an enrollment, capturing the enrollment not only of this current year, but the last 10 or 11 years. At the end of the presentation, we kind of get more into what we'd like to investigate with regard to capacity at the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
This next slide, again, is just a different picture of how the enrollment has changed over the last 10 years. You can see the dark red is Wayne Elementary. The middle, kind of the brown, very dark red, is Radnor Elementary, and the lighter color is Ithan Elementary. So you can see, just to highlight one year, in the current year, 1920, we had a -1 student at Wayne, positive 35 at Radnor, and a positive 62 at Ithan. And that reflects 62 more students than we had the year before, 35 more students than we had the year before, 1 less student than we had the year before at Wayne. It's just interesting to see over the course of the last 10 years.
So, yeah, and I guess my question was really, so the zero line there, for 2010-11, the zero line is 2009-10. Like, and I'll tell you, here's what's confusing to me, and I'm not saying it's inaccurate because I did the math, but Radnor Elementary, for example, starts as a negative number there, and it looks almost like Radnor hasn't, it's the second in terms of actual total increase, but I think that Radnor over that same period is actually the highest increase of the three schools.
Yes,
When
it is.
when I looked at the table on the page before, the bar graph from the page before.
It is, and I can go back. Over the course from 2009-10 to current year, Radnor has an increase of 97 students.
Right, and if you go to 2010-11, which is where the next one starts, it's actually almost 130 students. It's 128 in those 9 years.
Right, if you subtract the first year where there was a negative.
Right,
Yes.
right. So, but whereas, and Ithan also has had its increase, so I'm not trying to say one's not an increase but the Ithan increase is more like 60.
It's 54
Right,
total.
from
yep.
2010 to 2019? Is that 438 to 507? That seems like,
From 09 to, yeah, for the last 11,
okay.
yes.
So it's not as big, but whereas on the line graph, I'm not saying this, I guess I'm just asking what we're supposed to get from this, other than I guess just that there are some bigger spikes in some years than
Yeah,
other
because
spikes and
sometimes
troughs.
between a bar graph and a line graph, the trend line, and you can see where the zero would be no change, of course. And overall, in two of the schools, we're kind of leveled out with Ithan a little bit, but then the last couple of years we've gone up quite a bit.
Okay,
You can see Wayne had a spike in 12-13, but relatively the rest of those years we've actually been below a zero line. And
Okay.
then Radnor has more or less been above that zero line, and sometimes well above
yeah.
in many years. So
Sean, can I interject here for a second? Because
Yeah.
I didn't articulate this well, Sarah, but I didn't think that this was intended to show the enrollment change from 2010-11 to 19-20, but rather the enrollment change from 2010-11 through 2019-20. And what I mean to say is, it's not the cumulative change, it was just it's a different representation
Yes.
of the bar graph from the page before, which just, or the chart from the page before, which just showed what happened, the one at the bottom where it says,
Yes.
This year we were up, we were down, we were up, we were down. If the inference was that this was supposed to represent the overall population change, I didn't take it that way. It was a year-over-year change.
absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
great, thank you.
Our intention was just to show you a picture of what's happened over the last decade
Okay.
at each of the elementary schools. And of course, we're looking at trends. Where are we trending?
Okay,
This next slide just captures the current status by grade at each elementary school. For example, if you're looking at Ithan, we have 100 kindergarten students. We have 84 fifth grade students. So the data kind of speaks for itself here. And again, these graphs are really meant for you to get a picture of not just the last 10 years, but current status, and yet really what makes up an enrollment update.
Sean, pardon me, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Where are the kids from the DCIU represented in the Ithan enrollment of 507? Or are the kids who are in the lodge who we, have come into certain classrooms and we provide additional support for them, but are they represented in the 507 or are they in addition to the
I believe they're
507?
represented in the 507.
Okay.
Do you know how many?
I-
20.
There's 20 students in the lodge?
It's not the lodge, it's the annex.
Annex, I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next several slides really pinpoint each of the elementary schools. Of course, IES, this is based on Ithan. The left side of the graph is the last school year. The right side of the graph is this current school year. All of the next three slides are based off class recommendations that were done in March of 90-91. And all of the numbers that are captured on the screen were based after an August 1st cutoff. So if you're looking at last year, at the bottom, the totals for Ithan at 445 and 22 sections. This current year, we've had 507 students and 26 sections. So it's an increase of 62 students in 4 sections at Ithan.
And is this the end of 2018-19 and then the beginning of 1920?
Yes, so just to give you everyone a reference, the date cutoff in 18-19 was based off the June cutoff, the end of the school year, and the current state is based off of an October 16th pull from enrollment. So it's really very up to date, the right side. And the left side is based off the end of the year in 1819. Again, the graph is identical. One thing to make note of too, there's a section distribution, so that's what the class sizes look like essentially for each grade, for each section. Again, 1819 on the left, we had 580 students at Wayne. This year, 579, so very little change at Wayne, both times 30 sections. And then at Radnor, again, the left side captures last year's number of students and number of sections. This year, we're up 1 section, and we're up 35 students at Radnor.
Can I ask a question about the
Yes.
Radnor numbers? The kindergarten at Radnor, so it says that K through 3, our class size recommendations in the district are preferably below 20. And is it 20 or below, or is it really like 19 or below?
So we have been following the last, 2.5 years that no higher than number as of August 1st.
Okay,
So that's how we've programmed. We have programmed each year as of August 1st at that no higher than number.
okay. So it's really 20 or below, but at Radnor, did we have a sudden last-minute surge in kindergartners that we've got 22 in all 5 sections?
Yes, after August 1st, that would show more enrollment than after August 1st.
Could have been after September 1st, and we'd have to look to see where those students arrived. But we use that cutoff of, August 1st, we program at the no higher than number. And then if students come in, we monitor it very closely. Students come in September, October, November. Again, we monitor that and decide whether or not we need to add any type of para support.
Okay, but you guys are looking at this and recognizing that if we don't have a reduction in the number of kids attending in that grade, that next year, the first grade will end up needing 6 sections. So you've got essentially 3 grades there with 6 sections already. Okay, just making sure.
And the next slide here captures the middle school, Radnor Middle School and Radnor High School. And it was a little more difficult to capture the class size just because there's such a disparity in different classes and sections. Dan did a great job capturing essentially what the middle school and high school looks like when you average it out. So at Radnor Middle School, we had a total of 830 students in 1819, a total of 862 students this year. It's an additional 32 students from last year. The average class size based on all those variables is around 19 students per class. Likewise at Radnor High School, very similar numbers, although the total for this total population didn't change very much. Only a negative student population of 17. But again, the class size is around 19 based again on all the sections and students.
Sean, can I?
Yes.
And I apologize.
No.
I've done this the last couple of years in the curriculum committee, and so I would not expect you to know this, given it's been 3 weeks, and this is secondary education. But I know one of the questions we typically ask in curriculum at the beginning of each year, and this got pushed, I appreciate your jumping in on it, is we appreciate knowing the average number, but are we really below that 28 in all of our classes at the middle school? And I know there have been years when like a Latin class had to get bigger or something, but just to prepare you, that'll be a question I'll ask.
Sure.
Thanks.
Oh, absolutely.
And do you have the 11-year data for the RMS in the high school? Because you have it for the elementary schools. I know the elementary schools are a hot button because, the one over the 11 years, jumped up 100 kids. But do we have that data also for the 11-year?
It's not included in this presentation.
Oh, I know it's
but
not
certainly-
here.
Yes.
That's why I'm
certainly we
asking.
can look back and find it, absolutely. Yeah. All right, which brings us to, that captures an enrollment update, which brings us to our priority project. So what we really want to do is develop a long-term facilities plan that reflects not just enrollment, but also our program needs and our building requirements. Some of the things we want to investigate, this list is not all-encompassing, but certainly this will give us a lot of information. And you can see the things that are listed on the screen here. Predictive modeling will be a great assistance for us. The schools and educational programs operated by other organizations, things like migration patterns and dual occupancy, mature turnover. These are all the components, not all, but many of the components we want to investigate as part of this priority project.
Can I?
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
Yeah.
So going through this list, one of the things that's occurred to me is, I know there's an increase in housing units, but a lot of those housing units are condos, and people don't think of those necessarily as family units. But one of the things I was thinking about is Villanova's put in all this new housing, and typically Villanova students were renting 3- and 4-bedroom houses. So those would be, if they were in nice enough condition or even not, potentially rentals for families with children. Between that and also just rentals change over and people move into rentals with children. So I guess my question is there anything in here that will help you identify where our rental units may be an increasing portion of our student population?
Yeah, so you want to take that, please? So, yeah, we plan on working with the township to gather some of that data, because in order to have a rental unit in Radnor Township, you need to have a license.
Okay.
Capturing that data to track that. Additionally, one of the terms we use here is mature turnover. So let me use my wife and I. Our kids are grown.
That's where I was going to.
They're out of the house, right? So if we decided, we have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, if we decided to go ahead and move into one of the new condominiums that may not support children as much or traditionally as a house might, that there still is an impact to the community by me moving into that condominium, because my house is now available to some family that may have 2.3 children, so there is an impact on the school district. Not unlike many years ago, the prevailing wisdom was the 55 and over communities had no impact to the school district except a positive one with the tax base. Well, that's not altogether true, because people want to stay in the community, they move out, they move in. Suddenly you had a couple that didn't have any children, now you have a neighborhood full of kids because everybody moved into the 55 and older community. So that,
Right.
unfortunately, was a short-sighted prediction.
Yeah.
Does that help you?
It does. That is helpful. And I know we've used Pell before. I guess I would wonder if there are other organizations we should be looking to. I trust you to be handling that. It's just
So the
Give
short
you that
answer to
note.
that is yes.
Okay.
The PDE live birth rates have always been a good predictor, but there are so many other factors with migration rates, mature turnover, and other things. I want to put it together in some sort of predictive modeling and eventually build an algorithm that we can actually hopefully predict out many years to determine what the needs of the district would be.
great. Thank you.
I just want to jump in. Chuck, you might remember, when we were looking at the middle school, we had 2 groups that were giving us
Data.
projections. And one was Pell, but I don't recall what the other one was. And they sometimes were discrepant, but we should probably go back and look at what that group was and then see where they are now, because we have a history, that we can compare. But I don't remember what it was.
And do you look
Mike?
at some, like there was an apartment building, I used to live in St. David's on Route 30. I lived all over the place, West Main, South Main. There was an apartment building on 30 that was 55 and over forever. Now bus stops there and half the bus gets off. So are we able to ask the big apartment buildings in town how many kids are coming in, or the bus driver? I mean,
So we
John
actually,
knows.
Not to drive into the weeds on this, but some of that we already
like
have that data available through the bus program. And that's what we're looking at with the predictive modeling, is taking the bus program, for example, and say the sending area for various schools, plug in new data with new housing units going in. What does that look like? Can we predict out that if we have 15 housing units going in this area here, again, I'll just randomly pick 2.3 children per house, how does that impact us? Do we have to look at how that, whether or not that's going to, or school's going, that particular sending school is big enough to handle it? Or, and again, what grade level are they? It's one thing to say, oh, we're going to have 72 new children come in over 5 grades. That's a lot more palatable than having 72 children show up for kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
So again, we just have to kind of get an age composition and factor involved with that as well.
Did you have another question? So 2 things with the township. I don't know if you're able to do this. You mentioned the student housing. Working with the township, the student housing inventory is actually a different, they have a different permit. So
Yes.
when you're reaching out to the township, I'm not actually sure, Sarah, that it's not 3 or 4 bedroom houses, because you can only have 2 students legally living in student housing in Radnor. I'm just saying.
I've known
I
people who
employed
got
over
kicked
200
out of
building
student
According to
housing.
let me
the,
tell
according
you,
to the
there's like
student
6 of them in
housing,
there.
the zoning in the township. But what would be interesting to find out, if the township could tell you, is, on the one hand, a property owner who has a student housing permit would normally be loath to give it up, because if you don't rent your house to students for a certain amount of time, you lose the student housing rental. That's one piece of it. But the other thing that might be, rather than kind of wondering or guessing or feeling like there's a lot of building going on or apartments or whatever, if the township is able to give you numbers on
how many of these condos and apartments have gone up in the last couple of years? How many more are queued up to be developed, that are either already in the building stage or getting ready to get their occupancy permits? If they're able to give you that kind of specific data to know we've got, 30 more whatevers or 20 more whatevers coming on, coming online in the next year or two.
They're required by law to provide that to the school district, and they do.
Okay,
They send
great.
us a report on that.
Super, thank you. The township is required.
That is correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, moving forward to the next one. So what we also want to look at from a facility standpoint is... Sure, I'm sorry. Sure. When I went through Wayne Elementary, I graduated, 79, so I was in the new Wayne Elementary in 1971. That building was set up for how we educated children in 1971. Obviously, things have changed since 1971. We want to make sure that whatever we have in the district, that we're not only just taking into consideration how many students we have in the grade levels, but also the other specials that we have, the other services that we provide. And as we move forward, I think in this new millennium, I think mental health is going to be so much more important than it had been maybe 10, 15 years ago. So we need to make sure that we have a space available for those types of services, whether it be counseling, mental health, other types of services like that. I think looking at the class size recommendations, they were originally in 1990, 91. I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. Are they adequate? Are they right? Are they wrong? Should we keep them? Should we change them? These types of questions that we need to delve into and gather more data to be able to make a data-driven decision. We require our kids, when we do programs for the kids, we look at data-driven decisions for the kids. We need to do the same thing for facilities.
I have a question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment, right? So we did that back when we did Ithan and Wayne Elementary School, 5 years ago now?
Yes.
And we spent a lot of money doing that. So I hope we can pull that up.
Yes.
And be sure that we're looking at that versus going out and getting all new studies.
Well,
I don't think things have changed dramatically in 5 years with regards to education.
No, I agreed with that, but I would say it'd be interesting to look at, from my perspective, what they projected us to be at that time in 2014, and what we actually were, to see what those projections were and how close they were. That would be an interesting data point to
I
look
guess,
at.
I'm sorry, I should be more clear. The projections, I get it, that
Yep.
does evolve and change, but when we did the feasibility study on the buildings
Yes.
and how the buildings are being used and the programmatic delivery and all that stuff, we haven't changed those things fundamentally
Sure.
in the last 5 years. That's the part that I would like to make sure we aren't having to spend more money again yet to do the same work in that area.
Sure,
I
reinventing the
understand
wheel.
the projection stuff evolves.
I seem to recall all the projections were that all the schools would be smaller than they
Okay.
are. Which,
So,
but my question was, I know there had been some talk about pod space, and I know that will come into discussion, and I wanted to understand how they are used. I'm only familiar with the pods at Wayne Elementary, so I only know how they're used at Wayne. And at Wayne, there's, you can't have a classroom there. They're not, it's like a small table with a couple of chairs.
Mhm.
Is that the same kind of space at Radnor?
I certainly cannot comment specific to every room there, but under Pennsylvania, the Department of Public Education, 660 square feet constitutes a classroom. Now, obviously, you want to have less students in a 660 square foot room than perhaps an 850 square foot room. So we can look and dive into that a little bit further and come up with a better answer for you. I'm not prepared to give you a specific answer this evening, but we can certainly look into that further.
But the way the way Radnor Elementary is laid out, so my kids were both in Wayne and in Radnor. The general pod area, same idea, right? It's got the center, and then the classrooms are
Right.
off it. And they do try to use it for centralized programming, right? Multiple classes come together in the 5th grade. Radnor Elementary is a science station where they can do science-type activities. There's a water station out there, whatever. But the real question for me, and as you start to do these numbers, and I know you're going to be updating them, everything, make sure we're not double counting. Calling something a pod when we've actually extended it to be a classroom, which we have done at Radnor Elementary School. I don't know, I see Anthony in the back here, whether every single one of the pods are now classrooms. I almost imagine they are. at least parts of them, because we put up temporary walls to make them a classroom. That was part of the design of the building when we first built it, was to enable that. So I just want to make sure when we do these things, we aren't double counting. It's a pod, but if there's a classroom in it, it's a classroom, not a
Correct.
pod.
So one of the things we want to do is go through and make sure that we are looking at each building and understanding what classroom space is available, what classroom space is being used, and have a apples-to-apples comparison between the 3 elementary buildings as well.
Mark, you mentioned the class size recommendations. The original numbers that you mentioned are from 90-91.
Yes, correct.
We did reaffirm that as a board
Okay.
in the last 2 or 3 years, that we, the board as it's constituted 2 or 3 years ago did reaffirm and say, nope, these are the class sizes that we were, we're committed to. Understanding that it's a piece of information and it's a data point, obviously a commitment to low class size creates the need for more classrooms. The board has committed to that. You'll come back to us in the spring and we'll continue to have these conversations, but it's not information that wasn't looked at again since 1990. I just wanted to share that with you.
I think one of the advantages of having somebody new, I'm here 8 months and, Sean's here 3 weeks.
3 weeks, right.
Is that we're going to be asking those questions, like
Right.
what if, why? And that's important, I think, in order to understand the process moving forward, we need to understand the process in the past.
It's also great that it's, a fresh set of eyes and.
Yeah, but the original work was fantastic. My dad was on the board
That
when
worked
they
back in
wrote that.
91, got
Yes,
it.
yes. I remember it well, yes.
You weren't on the board then, but my dad was. And he killed the late bus.
I have another question
Yes, please.
regarding the space. Will we be looking at the annex and the lodge in terms of programming space?
Right now, we're looking at just Ithan Elementary School and the data, the points that you have here. The lodge itself, so, and I'm not sure which one we call which. So
I'm not either.
the ones are the modular units. That's a lodge. We do not use that for classrooms at this point in time. The PTO uses that, Right at School uses that after school. We do rent out the back annex to the IU currently. So we'd be looking at what the condition of that building is moving forward to the next slide, but those conditions and whether or not they need to be incorporated in, what do we need to do moving forward with those?
So I think I heard you say it will be considered in
Correct.
the grand scheme.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so the lodge is the one up on the top? Because the original plan was when the construction of the building was done, with the addition of the classrooms, that was supposed to come down. We actually even had people bidding on it. So I'm
To
kind
take
of
them out.
actually surprised. I haven't been on that property, but I'm kind of surprised they're still there.
So one of the things I need to do from a facility standpoint is to, sorry, sure.
And if you recall, we looked at the annex, and we decided we could not use it
For classrooms?
for classrooms.
Yeah.
But we did rent it to the IU.
Oh, we rented the back.
Yeah,
The back.
yeah, no, but I'm saying, so if we could go back and find that, there was a study done, and the board said, we're not interested in using it for our kids.
So,
But it's okay for special.
no, hang on, because some work was done to it. So, some,
This was before, seriously, that discussion was there, we weren't going to put our kids in there.
Well, let's do this before, because
So good-
again,
all
we
good
need
questions to add to
all-
the list.
Exactly, all great questions. And I think that sometimes that's the challenge of, what was said, what was decisions that were made in the past, and why, and sometimes there's multiple versions of why. So let us, as part of the study, understand the reasons and understand what was actually decided and why did we decide that. And then we can also look forward and say, whatever that decision was, do we still agree with that now? Do we still affirm it? So those are all pieces that we can look at.
It's almost doing a paper review, is really what I'm saying.
Sure, sure.
All
Well-
the paperwork that we have, the reports that we have, before we start doing new reports, I think that's what it'll happen.
all of that leads up to the very first thing here, evaluate the current condition of all
Right,
the district buildings.
So, and that's something I wanted to do since I've got here, and obviously I need to continue to do that. We're obviously looking at it with a close eye to ADA and accessibility, and then what other programmatic needs we have. Again, I think it's key that we need to identify short and long-term space needs for buildings so that we're not caught with, in March or April, suddenly realizing, oh my goodness, we don't have enough space for our projected number of students coming in, so we need to be ahead of the game on that one. Certainly, the 20 years life cycle costing analysis for a capital budget for you would be, I think, beneficial moving forward, so you have that data. And then whatever we do, even though PlanCon has a moratorium, it's likely that PlanCon will come back in some form. I was fortunate enough to be working on a committee at the state to make recommendations on what PlanCon should look like moving forward. But whatever we do, I would recommend that the district follows that PlanCon guideline. Now, while you don't get 100% reimbursement, you do get something back from it. And I think it's important for us to at least evaluate that moving forward. It is a solid process moving forward to follow.
Okay, do we have other questions for Sean or Mark right now? All righty, well, thank you both. Welcome, Sean, trial by fire. But we will expect, I'm sure Ken will keep us updated on when we can expect updates and progress reports. And, you have, I'm sure somebody wrote down all the questions that people asked and all things for you to add to the information that we're going to look to gather to make a good long-term plan here. So thank you both very much. All righty, great, thanks.
Board members, if there is something else that's, strikes you in the next night or the next couple of days about this or something you have a thought, please, you can email me directly. You could also send an email right to Sean as well with that, have we thought of this? Have we looked at that? That would be helpful.
Okay, so now we're going to move into our first public comment session. Citizens are encouraged to address the board during the public comment portions of the meeting on the agenda or other topics related to the Radnor Township School District. Please print your name on the sign-in sheet at the table in the back of the room if you haven't already done so. When you come forward, state your name, your street address, and your topic to be addressed. We do ask that you limit your individual comment to not more than 4 minutes per our board policy 006. Should you be unable to attend our meeting tonight, please submit your comments by email to boardcomments@rtsd.org or in writing to Mr. Michael Petiti, Radnor Township School District 135 South Wayne Avenue, Wayne, PA 19087. The administration will review the comments, the questions, and corresponding answers will be posted on the district's board docs by the start of the first committee meeting of the following month. Do we have any public comment tonight? Wow. Okay. Mr. Petiti, do we have any written comments? This might be a first. So with no public comment from the public, we will move right into reports from board committees. Our first one up will be a curriculum committee report. Thank you. Mrs. Solomon?
Yeah, thank you. The Board Curriculum Committee met on October 18th. We had several clubs, both at the high school and at the middle school, for approval, which are on your consent agenda tonight. We then received a presentation by our high school principal on the changes, Act 158 and how that will change the Keystone exam requirements. And basically what the new law offers are alternative paths to graduation. In addition to passing the Keystone exam, there are 5 alternative paths to meeting that requirement for graduation. We then received a presentation from Dana Ranko, who was the Drug and Alcohol Assistant Director for the Delaware County Office of Behavioral Health. What she presented to us was the PA Youth Survey, the PAYS survey, which we find really useful in Radnor for just looking at what our students are really doing and being really in touch with their needs. So that will be forthcoming. Our students will participate in that again. We then received a presentation on healthy use of technology. And again, this is aligned with our new technology rollout. So we want to make sure that students are using their technology appropriately. And this also sort of dovetails with the start time of school, that we want to make sure students aren't frittering away their precious time, not sleeping, but on their technology. So I think it's really important that we keep reminding the community about this gift of extra time from the start time, and that it does correlate with how we use technology. And just to announce that there will be a National Day of Unplugging, which will be the first Friday in March, which is March 2nd, 2020, and I believe Radnor is going to observe that. So we'll see how that works out. Everybody will be off their emails and their cell phones, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Yeah, we'll have a month of unplugging. Yeah. And that concludes the curriculum committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Facilities, Mr. Miller?
Thank you. The Facilities Committee met on October 15th, and we discussed the following. The administration is still working with Radnor Aquatic Club on a new agreement to use the high school pool. The reconstruction of the bus garage is estimated to be complete by April 30th, 2020, with no disruption to students. We are moving forward with the high school athletic infrastructure project, and we should approve 3 contracts tonight. A contract for a boundary and topography study of the entire high school campus, one for Atlantic Aquatic Engineering to study and report the condition of the existing natatorium and the needs to bring it up to current standards, and a contract of Vortex Environmental to find and delineate where the wetlands, if any, are on the high school campus. We approved a grant application for security needs to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. We have also on the agenda the usual request to dispose of obsolete furniture and a double base. We have a tax assessment appeal settlement and a submission for PlanCon Part G for Wayne and Ithan Elementary Schools. If you would like to see our wide-ranging and thorough discussion of these matters, you can watch on the district's YouTube channel, and it's only 25 minutes long this month.
The Finance Committee did not meet in the month of October, but our next regularly scheduled meeting will be November 12th at 5:30 p.m. Policy, Mrs. Goldman?
The Policy Committee met on October 15th and has recommended that the following items be on tonight's agenda for a vote. Agenda item 13.1, we have 2 first reads, policies 233, suspension and expulsion, and policy 249, anti-bullying. Policy 233 is one of a number of student discipline policies that the administration has been reviewing over this past summer and has made, because they're a part of the district's handbooks. Some of the changes made include creating an administrative regulation and including language concerning special education students. Policy 249, anti-bullying, was under review because school code requires that this policy be reviewed every 3 years. And the last review of it was in November of 2016. Some of the changes to this policy include aligning the definition of bullying with what is in school code. Also, the reporting and investigating procedures were rewritten to be consistent with the same procedures in policy 247, which is anti-hazing, in order to ensure consistency in internal processes. And an AR was also developed. Board Agenda Item 13.2 is a second read for adoption. It's Policy 719, Unmanned Aircraft Systems and Drones. The board made no changes to the policy after we all did a first read of it last month, and the Policy Committee did not make any change in its second reading last week either. And then there's Board Agenda Item 13.3, which is a first read for repeal. It's Policy 113.1, Discipline of Students with Disabilities. I had mentioned this earlier. The contents of this policy were incorporated into Policy 233 and its AR, especially Attachment B, that is a policy that is up for first read tonight. So therefore, the administration is recommending we repeal Policy 113.1. Our next Policy Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, November 12th at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Government Relations and Communications Committee report. Mr. Madden or Mrs. Goldman?
The Government Relations and Communications Committee met on Tuesday, October 15th at 9. Administrative Liaison Michael Petiti made a comprehensive presentation of our past year's goals and the progress we have made towards accomplishing them. And we also discussed what we'd like to set as goals for the year ahead. In addition, we had a legislative update on what's on the table in Harrisburg, including some bills that will be discussed at an upcoming public hearing by the House Education Committee on Monday, October 28th, this upcoming Monday. GRCC will be meeting next on Tuesday, November 12th at 8 o'clock with a shift in schedule, I think.
Can I just, so during last week's meeting, committee meeting, I brought up in new business my concern about the content of our website and the lack of historical information up there. I heard all about the ADA, I guess, compliance and whatever other issues that we're having with the agencies or the companies that we're using for our postings, but it has been 2 years, and we need to fix this. We trimmed back our meeting minutes, saying that the record of the meetings, videos, and the meeting agenda and stuff up online was the official record of these meetings, and now nothing's up there, except for the last 2 years, I guess. Everything before that is still gone, and it's problematic. We need to fix it. So someone had suggested that perhaps that gets put on the agenda for your group, and I didn't get to go. Your meeting was before we had this discussion, so I'm hoping this is an official request to get it on your agenda and see what we can do to get that rectified. Everybody else seems to have it. Township's system is great. The other school districts are good. It seems ridiculous we can't get it fixed. I know it's not your fault. I hope we can get this taken care of.
So it's already been shared with our communications director and also with technology that to schedule this at a future GRCC meeting, we're looking at either November or December, having scheduling a time to share that and share that status and share that update. It has been something that the district has been following very closely and has been on top of, as we discussed a lot of those reasons at our past meeting, but we can give a comprehensive update on the status of where we are.
I'll listen for the status update, but $100 million school district, we have to figure out a way to make it happen. And I don't know what it takes to get there, but they are the official record for our meetings.
They're not the official record, Patty. Our minutes are our official record.
Okay,
And Mr.
back when we
Christofko can.
had discussions about our meeting minutes and the curtailing of our meeting minutes, they used to be very, very wordy, you might remember. Paragraph after paragraph, what people were talking about, et cetera.
I understand.
And we trimmed them all back because the meeting minutes or the meeting videos were supposed to be the official record.
They're
And I
not.
bet I could finally.
Patty, Mr. Christofko, clarify this for me. The official record of our meetings is our meeting minutes. Our online records, our online meetings
That may all be
are
true, but I
supplementary.
remember exactly what Patty was saying.
It's
We had this
absolutely what we
discussion when
said.
Julia, me, Patty, Chuck, Amy got elected. The meeting minutes used to be like a phone book, and then we trimmed them back, and then
Yeah.
we said we'd house the videos, and it can't be that, like she said, it's a $100 million thing. It can't be.
We can't figure out how to post them.
No, that's not the
Amazon
problem,
Web
Patty.
Services, boom,
That's not
done.
an accurate depiction. We can figure it out. There is an issue now that our contract with the DCIU Mimecast service is done, as we explained in the communications. MediaCast, sorry, Mimecast, MediaCast. There is a challenge now that that contract is ended. So, we're going to get an update in November. I think, Ken relayed, he's working with the communications and the technology people. But legally, Mr. Christofko, please, just clarify for everybody, what's the official record of our meetings? Legally.
It's the written minutes that the board votes on and adopts.
Yeah, I got that, but that's not what the intent was.
So
we can go after, well, that's only our legal obligation. I got you on that. Figure out another way to do it. Who cares about what we do
Patty,
with the county?
I'm not disputing the importance of it. Hang on, let me just finish. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, the minutes are the legal record, but because we went to the abbreviated minutes, it makes the website with the meetings to be able to watch them all the more important. Believe me, I know about this because I reached out to Michael a few months ago. I was looking for a meeting. I couldn't find it. I'm like, where's this meeting? And so I am fully there with you, the importance of getting this fixed. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I really am.
And most of this, I guess, for me, is really coming up yet again, because I often have had this problem where I can't get these things. Fortunately, I'm a pack rat, and I have almost every electronic copy of everything we've ever had. I can pull up the stuff, but we are now starting to engage in conversations on projects where having the historical information and being able to go back and look at them, especially if you're talking about districting, building projects, and other things that I could rattle off, we need to get this stuff up there so people can be informed about what we did, and really, quite frankly, other board members that weren't on the board at the time. it seems a little silly to me that I have to walk into the township or the school district and ask to put something on a disc. It's silly.
We get it. Okay. So we're going to have an update in November, December. Great. Thank you. We are going to move into our consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussion on these items. With the consent of all board members, they are therefore grouped and approval is given in one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any item, the board president will move it to an appropriate place on the agenda. So at this time, is there any items from the consent agenda that would like to be pulled?
I need to pull 10.4.
10.4, any other items?
10.4.
Okay, any other items? Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 10.1 through 10.3 and 10.5 through 14.1. May I have
So
a motion?
moved. Oh, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? The motion passes 9-0. Mr. Miller, 10.4.
So, on the original agenda, the boundary and topography study for the Radnor High School was listed as to be determined. Mr. Brooks has determined it. So, we would like to award that contract, or to replace the TBT, to award it to land grant surveyors for an amount of $33,800. I'd like to amend the agenda to reflect that.
Okay, so we have a motion, and may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Is there any question on this contract?
Can we have discussion before we vote?
Oh, sure, of course.
Okay.
I do want to say, though, we're going to make a point of, we'll get this thing posted to the website, correct? Okay, great. Mrs. Solomon?
Yeah, I'm going to be voting against this, and my reasons are that I feel this is a lot of money to be spending on a project that, for me, I don't fully support all the aspects of this project. I support getting our facilities ADA compliant, and I think the quickest way to do that is to separate it from, I don't know, I think there's 5 or 6 other projects thrown into this, and then people start talking about, well, these aren't wants, these are needs. To me, the only major need is to become ADA compliant. The quickest way to do that is to pull it out from moving, a new workout facility, moving, I guess there's the maintenance facility, talking about what we're going to do with the track. I mean, to me, those are not pressing issues to the same extent that the ADA compliance is. And I don't feel that spending this kind of money on a study for, again, to me, this is my opinion, a lot of bells and whistles that I don't support. I will be voting against this survey.
Well, I support these surveys because the pool is not ADA compliant, nor is the viewing balcony for it, so we need Atlantic Aquatic to come in to do the survey to figure out what we needed to do to comply with the ADA law, so that's that $3,400. The Vortex Environmental, we can't do anything on our campus if we wanted to make it ADA compliant without, we can't get a building permit to stick a shovel in the ground without finding out where the wetlands are, so that's the $2,150. The $33,800 is when we want to put the new bleachers in to make them ADA compliant, we need to have elevations and a survey done of the entire campus so we know where things actually are so that the engineers and the architects can make the drawings. So that's where that's all for. So even if you just wanted to demolish the current bleachers and somehow airdrop in a new set of bleachers that had ADA ramps at the bottom and no way to get there, you'd still need to do these surveys so that the architects and the engineers know how to make the drawings and the engineering and architectural drawings to put them, because right now we got nothing. I mean, Mr. Brooks has this amazing collection of rolled up plans from way back, but they're not usable to build stuff. So that's what this stuff is for.
Yeah.
So even if you wanted to do the most minimum plan that you want, you'd still need to do this.
So I agree with you, Mike. I do think you need to do these things for the ADA compliance and the bleacher thing. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I've said it about 100 times now. We need to separate these projects, get the bleachers taken care of. I want to be clear for the people who yell at me that I don't know what I'm talking about. When I say bleacher project, I mean the bleachers, fix the wall, make it ADA compliant, just so that everybody's clear what I'm talking about. I don't want to just magically drop in a set of bleachers right where we have, because we've got problems with the bleachers. but we don't need a maintenance hut. We don't need a new Shake Shack on the property. We don't need a new gym, or anything else to get the bleachers done. You may want these other things. I'm good with that. You all can have that conversation for sure. If the community supports it and wants to help pay for it, awesome. But you don't need it to do the bleachers, and it's going to hold the project up for the bleachers while we're trying to play around with all the nice to haves. So I support this because I do think from an engineering point of view, you do need to do these studies in order to even appropriately do the bleachers. One other thing I would like to toss out there, interestingly enough, I thought about it at the facilities meeting, and then I let myself walk away from the discussion. But Mike, you just said something that reminded me again, related to the wetlands. So, my question for this board is, we're going to ask get the wetlands delineated, which I think we do need to do. I appreciated we got a comment from one of our members of our audience from our participation, reminding us that wetlands can change depending on what's going on with the time of year and the type of weather we've had. So trying to get them back to do another study at another period of time would be very good for us to do, which I think we said we were going to try and get them to do free of charge. But moreover, we're about to potentially engage in the addition of a trail around our entire property that runs the entire frontage of our property along the quote-unquote wetlands. So I want to know, are we going to actually finish this study before we engage in an agreement with the township to put a trail where, in fact, there could be wetlands? So I'd like to see that this report gets done before we engage in any kind of agreement with the township for a trail.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Brooks? You were just up here earlier talking about the capital plan, a long-term capital plan for the district. Maybe not, well, I think all of this probably is relevant to that plan. Are these studies that we make the investment now and the information here will also inform your long-term capital plan in the spring?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's money well spent because we have at least one use for it, the longer-term district goal that we've all agreed to, but we also have potentially use for the infrastructure project at the high school. Thank you.
We did discuss this at the facilities meeting. The other thing, these studies, well, the boundary and topography are going to be digitized. So to Mike's point about the rolled up plans, this is going to be a digitized plan so that it will be available, I won't say in perpetuity, but, it will be available for the long term and not the challenge that, we're coming across with the old plans that were done, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's one of the things we need to do is make sure we have digitized copies of all our plans. Some plans were damaged years ago in floods. This way we can digitize them, have them on backup, we'll have those moving forward. We never have to worry about doing it again.
Okay, great. So we'll keep, to help keep the record keeping. Is there any other comment? Sure.
I'm just curious about the environmental study, whether we could share that with the trail project, because I know they have to do one also, and I don't know whether they did it already and maybe could share it with us, or what the extent of their study's going to be, or what ours is going to be. Okay?
Because I bet their delineation of the wetlands is going to be smaller where they want to put the trail.
Yeah.
Compared to where we.
But I'm just saying, ours is going to be our
Done in the
entire,
driest
our
summer
entire
we've had.
property, correct?
That is correct. This
and-
delineation for us is the entire property, whereas theirs is specific to where the trail is going to
I
be.
understand that, but theirs will be also our property,
That is correct.
okay? So all I'm saying is, instead of spending tax dollars, us doing it, them doing it, maybe they'd be willing to share, get the information. That's all.
Okay. So if there's no other comment, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor?
Does somebody have to make a motion?
We already made a
motion in a
motion,
second,
sorry.
so.
1, 2,
Bad.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And all those opposed? Okay, the motion passes 8-1. Thank you. Let's see. We're going to move into our liaison reports. First up is, what is it? DCCC? No. Yeah, Delaware Community College. Lydia?
Thank you. No report other than to encourage everyone to take advantage of your dinner invitation on October 30th to come down to the Delaware County Community College Board Member Appreciation Dinner.
Okay, great, thank you. Delaware County Intermediate Unit, Mr. Madden?
We had a meeting, and at the meeting, the union came to an agreement with, for a salary agreement, so the contract has gone through, correct? My mic's not on? Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. We're happy to announce that our union and the management have gotten together and they worked out a contract that both sides seem to be pretty happy with.
Great.
Chuck,
From
can I
what I
just
heard.
is it the teachers' union, or, I mean, we have a bunch of unions. Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. Federal Relations Network, Dr. Babson.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council, Mrs. Goldman.
We didn't meet this month. The next meeting is November 13th.
Thank you. PSBA,
So we
there you go.
had quite the eventful week last week. So 4 of us, Sarah Dunn, Amy Goldman, and Lydia Solomon, and myself, we participated in the PSBA School Leadership Conference in Hershey. And on the final day of the conference, Ms. Dunn, Ms. Solomon, and I participated in the annual PSBA Delegate Assembly, which is an important opportunity to vote upon amendments and additions to the PSBA legislative platform and hear yearly reports from the Credentials Committee and Treasurer. So that was great and very much worthwhile. Just quick highlights from the Liaison Insider report that I get. So of interest to us would be that an Omnibus Career and Technical Education, or CTE bill, House Bill 265 is heading down the pike to the governor. And that's, I think that's sponsored by a representative from Bucks County. Last week, on the 17th, an advisory committee of the Joint State Government Commission released its study in the secondary school start times issue, and the PSBA is represented on that committee. And then finally, PSBA's testimony was offered to a bipartisan Special Education Funding Commission, which is a 15-member legislative panel from the State House and Governor's Office. And they offered a series of recommendations for adjustments to the formula and said that if the factors are changed, school districts should not experience significant disruption to their current level of funding. So lots going on the state level. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Can I just jump in there and say that our board a couple months ago approved part of the platform for PSBA, and so we should just say that it was us, along with 2 other districts, that put forth changes towards mental health within the platform that were supported by the voting delegates. So thank you, everyone.
That's great. Parks and Rec report, is it going to be Sarah or Andrew?
I got
Okay.
it. So the Parks and Rec group meeting was about a week and a half ago. We meet on Thursday evenings once a month, and it's televised for people who want to go watch it. The key issues that we covered were that the township is, with the Parks and Rec Board, with Radnor Youth Lacrosse, is going to form a committee to try and figure out a good and proper memorial to Peter Sampson somewhere in the township. We were presented with a proposal for the capital budget for capital projects in the township over the next 4 years. And the committee was advised that the administration is going to recommend changing the name of Veterans Park to Heroes and Legends Park, a change they need to make in conjunction, I guess, with getting funding from Penn for improvements to that park.
Okay, Radnor Educational Foundation, Radnor Alumni Council. Mr. Miller?
Alrighty, this is the October 2019 edition of the Radnor Education Foundation news and events. Support REF and update your fall wardrobe. Shop at Skirt in Bryn Mawr on Wednesday, October 23rd, tomorrow, from 6 to 8 p.m. and mention Radnor Educational Foundation. 10% of the evening sales will be donated to REF. Do you need something to do with the kids while school is closed for Election Day? Come to REF Movie Day. Tuesday, November 5th, go vote and then bring the kids to the middle school auditorium for Incredibles 2 at 1 o'clock. Tickets at the door for $5 per person, $20 per family. Pretzels and water for sale too. So remember, go vote, not going to say for who. Then go watch a movie and support REF. And as usual, I have no report from the alumni.
Just want to say, I went to the All In for Ref last Wednesday night. It was the poker.
The poker tournament.
The poker tournament that
You
supported.
did not win.
Did you win?
Hey, I came in 10th out of 30.
Oh, I know.
Oh, oh, you heard.
Oh, I have lots of people there.
I know who I played with. In any event, it was a really great event, and I hope it builds some momentum. The proceeds from it went to help neighbors helping neighbors.
Neighbors
which is
helping
kind of a
neighbors,
subset.
and I think the top 3 people got paid, and I believe all 3 of them gave back a
Yeah, they all
significant
three.
portion of
The
the
top
money
3
they
people
won.
gave back,
So, like,
which
the
was
winner, I mean,
really generous. But it was a great
yeah.
event despite the rain and.
Yeah, John Zukowski won, and he donated back $500 of his winnings.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good night. Okay, Radnor High School Scholarship Fund, Mrs. Bonenberger.
There is no report.
Radnor Page, Mrs. Dunn.
We have no report.
Radnor Committee for Special Education, Mr. Madden?
No report.
Okay. Let's see, we're going to move on to new business. We do have one item for new business. I don't know that we agreed who was going to be bringing that up, but we have one additional donation that we'd like to be able to accept tonight. Oh, thank you. So let me read this, and I'm going to ask for a motion here. Pursuant to Policy 702, gifts, grants, donations, the Board of School Directors appreciates financial gifts from which time to time are offered by individuals, businesses, and community organizations to enhance or extend the program in the schools. The board has the authority to accept gifts and donations made to the school district or any school or any district school at a business meeting of the board. So the motion is that the board accepts the following donation. Milliman is the name of the company. They would like to donate $40,000 worth of office equipment and furniture to the district to be used for the archives room at the high school. So I'd like to entertain a motion to accept this gift.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Great. And do we have any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? The motion passes 9-0. Thank you so much. Go pick up our desks or whatever it is we got. That was very generous of them. Under board announcements, I would like to adjust from the agenda that's on tonight. Our next round of committee meetings, the Policy Committee meeting will be meeting at 5 p.m. The Finance Committee meeting will be meeting at 5:30 p.m., and Curriculum Committee meeting will be at 6:30 p.m. Those are all, and Government Relations and Communications Committee will be meeting at 8 p.m., all on Tuesday, November 12th in the Administration Building, ground floor conference room, and our next regularly scheduled business meeting will be here in the Radnorshire Room, Tuesday, November 19th, 2019, at 7 p.m. Okay, is there any public comment for our second round? Citizens are encouraged to address the board at this time to comment on matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before the board. Speakers are respectfully requested to avoid redundancy and to limit their comments to issues for which there was not previous opportunity to offer remarks. We once again ask that you sign your name at the sign-in sheet in the back of the room if you haven't already done so. Please clearly state your name, address, and topic, and limit your comments to not more than 4 minutes per Board Policy 006. Should you be unable to attend this evening's meeting, please submit your comment by email to boardcomments@rtsd.org or in writing to Mr. Michael Petiti, Radnor Township School District, 135 South Wayne Avenue, Wayne, PA 19087. And once again, the administration will review questions, and the corresponding answers will be posted on the district's board docs website by the start of the first committee meeting of the following month. Do we have any public comment? Welcome, Dr. Winters.
Good evening, Roberta Winters. I would like, 326 Williams Road, I would like to commend those young artists who are recognized this evening. I think it's a real tribute to the kinds of students we have and the kinds of effort that's necessary to achieve such recognition. I would also like to commend all of those in the district who worked tirelessly on the sleep deprivation in adolescents, the case for delaying secondary school start time, the recently released study from the State Commission, Intergovernmental Commission, and that can be found on the website. I'm sure you've probably read about it in the local press. Also, I would like to recommend that when we look at building utilization, that those who are involved in the classrooms and the teachers union and other unions are involved in looking at that, because sometimes the people with the boots on the ground know what's going on better than those who may be there momentarily for a preview. I would like to also offer my services. I've been involved in that effort for quite some time, as Mr. Madden can attest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second, great. All those in favor? Okay, great. We're adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you.